What is the most shocking thing you have ever seen in your life? I did a temporary job after being laid off from my usual work. An old guy was operating a machine and it had a jam inside it. He pressed the emergency shut-off and opened the safety gate. As he cleared the blockage, the two huge presses crushed his ribs, trapping him. I ran across and managed to pry one out of the way to release him. Called the supervisor to get an ambulance, and this asshole didn't want to call one because they'd get in trouble with the owner. Because in the UK, if an ambulance is called for a workplace injury, then it has to be reported to the Health and Safety Executive, OSHA, for you American folk. I ran to my car and called the ambulance myself. Turned out the old guy had 4 broken ribs and one of them was a flail, where the rib is broken off and moving around the rib cage. Got a call the next day from the employment agency, saying that the company didn't want me back. I said that's great because I have no intention of going back to a company who were prepared to let someone die rather than call an ambulance. Last summer, I was walking back from our condo garbage area when I heard the most terrifying scream, "Oh God no," then a thud. I turned back to see what happened. Not really thinking about anything but maybe a person who needs my help. To my horror, I saw a lady with her head on the curb with her body on the road next to the condo building. She had jumped from 10 stories and landed facing up. She was unresponsive. The way she landed, you can tell her neck was severed from the impact. 911 lady insisted that I try CPR, but I just could not do it. I am not trained, first of all, and second I would have had to drag the lady out from the curb, which would make her head hit the road again. Ambulance showed up in about 15 minutes. I feel bad to this day. It was 2011, and the Egyptian revolution was happening. I'm an Egyptian living abroad, and I got a call from my sister hysterically crying, and she couldn't believe I'm answering her, and then her husband took the phone from her and spoke to me asking where I'm, and I told him I'm in the city I used to live in. Turned out, they have seen a post on Facebook for someone who passed away and they can't find his family during the protest, but the shocking part, when I looked at the photo, it was me. Exactly me, same facial features, but just a dead person. Not insane, but I was in the anesthesia recovery room after a colonoscopy, and the person 2 beds down from me coded, and I sat and watched as the code team came in, tried for like 5 minutes to keep him alive until a doctor came in and said the family requested that they stop. One of the doctors pronounced the patient deceased, and the team of like 5 to 8 doctors had a moment of silence in a circle around the body before we all left the post-op room. It was just so weird how the whole room went from rushed, anxious, determined, and a really palpable sense of urgency to completely quiet and still in a matter of moments. On the other hand, it was really reassuring seeing the real sense of dignity the clinicians gave to the deceased, something they did out of a sense of respect for the person's life, because there was no one around but the clinicians and myself, who was just a fly on the wall, and I don't think they noticed. I have seen 3 things that really shocked me. My back then best friend jumped in front of a car on the highway and saw it from start till end. She did survive, but it wasn't pretty. I have seen a guy jumping in front of a train. Seen a dead body hanging in a tunnel. A man's fucking head get blown off. It was my uncle's. Before he did it, he called me and his girlfriend in to see it. 1 second, it's fine. The BLAM. My dad's dead body. Made me realize the body really is just a vessel for the individual. He didn't look like he had ever been a real, living human being, and it was awful. A married couple hosted a dinner party for a group of friends and professional acquaintances. During the course of the evening, the couple got into an intense argument in front of everyone. Everyone was appalled when the husband slapped his wife so hard she was knocked to the floor. Some of us present had to pull him off her because his rage was out of control, and, as far as anyone could discern, over nothing of consequence. Me and my grandpa was making cookies when he looked out the window and saw some kids outside and told me, "Hey, how about we give those kids some treats?" Yeah. I agreed and walked outside. He gave me the tray of cookies and said, "Wait here, I'll be right back." I gave the kids cookies as my grandpa went back in. 30 minutes later I head back in to find him lying on the floor. Turns out he had a heart attack but didn't seem to yell out for me. I miss him so much. My best girlfriend, coming back from a night out at a club. There were 2 cars, 5 of us in each. She was in the first car when the driver of the truck coming in the other direction veered off the lane, smashing into the first car. I saw her decapitated by the windscreen. The others in that car were broken boned and smashed, but I ran up to the car and my friend without her head has haunted me for over 50 years. The blood. 6 years ago, I was walking down a park next to my high school with friends. We saw a group of 13-year-olds laughing on a bench. But right when we passed them, we saw an old man, probably 60-70-ish years old. He was hiding behind the bushes, sitting on a small stone wall. What's the shocking part, you may ask? He was masturbating while looking at them. One of my friends went to talk with the 13-year-olds to try to make them move from there in a safer place. They did. 1 week after that, my high school told every classes not to go in this park. They told us there was a 30-year-old dude and a 60-year-old trying to have sex with students passing by. They were arrested 2 weeks after. I was parked at a railroad crossing in rural Iowa. The ground vibes were odd and intense. I decided to back up the truck. A few moments later the train derailed catastrophically. Mopping blood, piss faces, human tissue, bone, burnt pieces of flesh out the back of a military aircraft with great precision, because generally the fluids from a damaged human body are pretty damaging to airframes. Driving in, a guy in an SUV passed by me in the most inside lane like a bullet. Speeding for sure, but I was already going 120 kilometers per hour to keep with traffic. God knows what he was doing, easy 150 or more. No sooner does he pass me than he cuts across the face of my car and across 4 or 5 more lanes of traffic to try to make it to an off-ramp. I watched him go straight into the side of a tractor trailer coming in the far right lane, and then out of my mirror saw the truck jackknifing and other cars start to crash into them. I can't remember now, but it was something like a 20-car pileup, and it was so out of the blue and so unnecessary. I've been in EMS for 17 years and have seen a lot of shit. The most shocking was a 2-year-old boy intentionally run down by a speeding minivan. Not the most graphic thing I've seen, but it fucked me up beyond belief. TW, nasty AF. Once got called in the ambulance to an apartment complex for stuck, unplugged. No clue what we're walking into. Housing officer meets us there and tells us to leave our med bag outside and says, "You'll see." Instant wall of odor of 1,000 sweaty giants' toenails, I swear to glob. Bed bugs. Cockroaches. Cobwebs galore. Floor is simultaneously wet with a centimeter of water and is still sticky. Unopened broom on the floor still in package. Ketchup on the floor possibly? Man is in the bathroom. Bathroom is just. You can imagine, poop in toilet, on floor. Sink orange with grime, crawling with tiny moving dots. Man stuck in tub, but naked. Tub is black with grime, unclear why man bothered to bathe here. Floor even more wet, can barely stand on the floor in full EMS boots. Had to climb into tub to haul him into a sitting position on the edge of tub. Got him onto the edge of the tub, but now nowhere to go. Officer, that brave man, ventured into the foggy gloom of the apartment and brings back a rolling desk chair. Who knows what dark void corner of this miniature hygiene hell. I look down SND, there is an aged white turd mashed into the material of the seat. Sat this man's naked ass on the chair because there was nothing else. Most shocking apartment I have ever laid eyes on, and I've seen so many bad ones. I reserve judgment. He had a lot of things going on, but by far most shocking thing I've ever seen. My mentally problematic mom driving full speed round the block and screaming that we both should just crash and die. I was on the passenger seat. Very benign compared to most of the stories here, a man pulling down his pants and taking a shit in the middle of a shopping mall. The mall was in a not so great area, with trashy people, so violence, crime, and vandalism were common. The true colors of people I thought loved me. I watched my brother die in front of me on his 9th birthday when I was 7. A guy with his nose ripped off begging for money for the subway. Holding my underdeveloped stillborn son, and watching my mum die in front of me. Some things you can't forget. A cat face on the ground assuming a bigger cat got a hold of him. Poor feller. I went to a circus with my family when I was a kid. There was going to be a performance where a stuntman lights himself on fire and dives into a pool of water. He jumped but didn't jump far enough and missed the pool by a few inches. He let out a loud yelp before he slammed into the floor. Guy on a motorbike wasn't paying attention and hit the back of an HGV at about 40 miles per hour. The impact killed him instantly and his head exploded inside his helmet. Gants Hill about 23 years ago. I was in the car behind him when it happened, and I watched the agony of it in slow motion. I've seen some traumatic shit over the years, but nothing comes close to the crushing realization of how life can change in a second. Caged lion biting off someone's fingers. A man suffering from a severe seizure on the cold streets and a whole crowd outside not doing anything except watching. If it were not for my mom and me, he would have died.